Hey there, welcome to Vince. Good to have you with us on a Tuesday. Ceasefire Tuesday. You know the 12-day war, remember that? Yeah, that's over. We've got a big show for you. We'll talk about a little bit of the shaky start to the ceasefire. The President of the United States making a big announcement on that subject. Also, Iran and its half-assed missile barrage that it fired at a base in Qatar yesterday. We've got the details on that. And then a million other things that are going on in the world we've got to get to, including, of course, right here in the United States. There's a lot of stuff going on. KT McFarland is going to stop by today. She's the Deputy National Security Advisor. She used to be for President Trump. She's got a lot of thoughts on this. But we're glad you're here on this episode of Vince, brought to you by Blackout Coffee, the official coffee of all of us here at Silverlock. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Use the code Vince. That's VINCE for 20% off your first order. Our thanks, of course, to Blackout Coffee. And our thanks to you. Thank you for being here. I'm loving the show. And I feel like I'm going to get into it in a moment. I'll go into more detail on this. But just think about how hysterical so much of the media coverage has been from all sides over especially the last few weeks. And one of the things that I love about this program and this audience is how sober and rational and reasonable and calm and perspective-driven everybody has been. And I think for that reason, we've had a lot of success in assessing this and what's possible and what comes next. So thank you. Thank you for your role in that. It's just been really great. Okay, we've got a lot coming up. Before we get there, I want to thank our sponsors. Birch Gold Group is a great sponsor of this program. We're days away from this possibly the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years. On July 6th, BRICS nations, Russia, China, India, Iran, and so many more, have been expecting to unveil their plans to try to circumvent the U.S. dollar, thus cratering its value. It's been reported that they've already been laying the groundwork as their central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. How can you protect your IRA or 401k from any fallout from this landmark shift? You can diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. Get a free info kit from Birch Gold Group on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word Vince to 989898. July 6th could mark a monumental shift happening among nations that control about a third of the world's GDP. So help arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings. Text Vince to the number 989898 and claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Message and data rates apply. Okay, so look, we've watched over the last just about 2 weeks as we've had all of this, the never-ending drama that we see between Iran and Israel, and a pretty big, battle going on as they've been lobbing all these missiles at each other. The President of the United States has been trying to offer, especially to Iran, a diplomatic end for all of this. Iran never took him up on it, and that resulted in this past weekend, those stealth bombers striking those Iranian nuclear sites and disabling those big under-the-ground, under-the-mountain nuclear enrichment facilities. And this, what you're witnessing now, what you have been witnessing, is the fulfillment of a pair of campaign promises that the president has made. One, prevent the Iranians from having a nuclear weapon. And two, and it's not in that order, it's definitely the other way around, get the United States out of needless wars. We have a country to look after. This one. That's the most important thing. And so throughout this process, we've seen hysteria all over the place. Forget the left. They're insane. But we've seen people on the right fighting amongst themselves about all of this. And especially in media, there's always this is just a truism of the way the media operates. Everybody feels like they have this obligation to give the most hysterical, hyperbolic, over-the-top possible opinion on every subject, no matter how much they know about it or how much they care about it, because the idea is to create some sort of sensational perspective that you have to trust me on this subject. I know what I'm talking about. When, in reality, normal people have conversations and they don't know everything. And normal people, at least the kinds of people that you and I respect in our lives probably, they don't pretend they know everything. They say, here's what I don't know. Here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what I'm concerned about. And so that's what we've been doing here. And it hasn't been, shallow speculation. It's been informed speculation. We've been bringing in all sorts of experts, by the way, from all sides of these issues in order to assess okay, what are the risks here? What can President Trump achieve? How can this be accomplished? And what could come next? And so that brings us to the last 24 hours. Suddenly, Iran doesn't want to play anymore. They don't want to have this fight anymore. They're looking for a way out because the missile strikes that the President of the United States authorized over the weekend has so brought them to heel that yesterday they fired a half-ass missile barrage at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. This is the largest presence of American troops in the region. There's 10,000 troops there, just across the Persian Gulf from Iran as they fire southbound towards Qatar. And everything about it was staged. The Iranians notified us ahead of time that the missiles were coming. The United States and Qatar had time to evacuate the area. When the missiles came in, they were easily shot down because, again, they were performative missiles headed into this airbase. And we know now in retrospect that the United States knew this was coming, that President Trump knew this was coming and was prepared to say, okay, go ahead, get it out of your system. In fact, that is precisely how the president described this. Check out how the president described this yesterday on Truth Social. Here he is. He says, Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected, and we have very effectively countered. There have been 14 missiles fired, 13 were knocked down, one was set free because it was headed in a non-threatening direction. I'm pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system. Who talks like this? Nobody talks like this. No president has ever talked like this. They got it all out of their system like a toddler throwing a tantrum, and there will hopefully be no further hate, he says. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just amazing? While we're in this, I just want to remind you, I was just telling Isaac, who sits here in studio with me, does such a great job operating my audio levels. I want to remind you that we are never going to have a president of the United States again like this. These are obviously big and serious issues, but when you are seeing some of this happening and you're chuckling to yourself about the way the president communicates, or you appreciate what he's doing, or, oh my gosh, this guy's being so candid. Oh yeah, they just had to get it out of their system. Dwell on these moments and think, and go ahead and marinate in them and to be like, this is pretty awesome, actually. Because I know, you and I both know what you're going to do. I'm going to do the same thing. Years from now, we're going to look back and be like, man, remember when that was happening? Gosh, I wish I could be living through all that again. Gosh, I wish Trump was still president of the United States. Boy, that was a good time. That was really fun. That guy really worked for it. He did a good job. Just dwell on it. That's all I'm saying. Dwell on it. It's like I occasionally look at my daughter, and she's 11 years old. She's a wonderful girl, but sometimes she drives me absolutely crazy. And I'm just being driven nuts by her. And I have to remind myself, I look at her and I go, Vincent. I call myself Vincent when I'm talking to my internal monologue. I use my full name. I said, Vincent, come on, man. She's not going to be like this forever. She's not going to live with you forever. She's going to be gone. At some point, you're going to look back fondly at whatever this ridiculous moment was. So stop getting so worked up about it. And so it's good, just have some perspective, marinate in these moments. So there's President Trump saying, yeah, the Iranians just needed to get it out of their system. Thanks for giving us early notice. And that's a sign, isn't it? That's a clear sign. Iran doesn't want the heat. They just wanted to put on a show for their own people. Look at us. We're so tough. We fought back. And the United States is so scared of us, they didn't even return fire this time. Okay, yeah, whatever. You got it out of your system. All right, now it's time for peace. This is the president's perspective on this. He wants peace. And so that brings us to Monday night. Last night, the president offered the following update. I just love how this keeps going. This just keeps getting better and better. And he says, congratulations to everyone. To everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will now be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately, get ready for this because there's a bunch of numbers here, but this is basically a phased-in ceasefire, so try and follow along. In approximately 6 hours from now, he said, that was 6 p.m. last night Eastern time, so he means midnight Eastern time. In approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions, for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works, as it should, which it will. I'd like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. The 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States. God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. So, President makes this announcement. He goes, look, I've secured this deal. Now, the president doesn't make an announcement like this unless he did receive assurances from both sides of this equation, which he did, both Iran and Israel, that yes, they want to engage in what they're calling a ceasefire. They'd like to stop shooting at each other now. Please, let's stop that. So he gets that commitment. And also, by going out and very publicly doing this, he's basically laying all the cards on the table and saying, hey, look, they agreed to it. He wants everybody to know so that they can be held accountable for whatever actions are to come if they violate the ceasefire. And also, he wants to will it into existence. When the president posts something like this or says something like this, he's trying to use the force of his own personality to say, and the strength of the United States and the bully pulpit that he occupies as president of the United States to say, look, I'm saying this is going to happen, so don't embarrass me. Either side, don't you embarrass me. Let's get this going. All right. So by this morning, things have obviously this is a shaky ceasefire. And I've got some developments on this front. But before we get there, I need to share with you what J.D. Vance is saying about the subject. J.D. Vance, right after the president posted this, was on the Fox News channel, and he said, all of this is the beginning of something very big and unusual for the Middle East. Take a look. Here's J.D. Vance, cut 1, talking about it last night.
He talked about the next 6 hours, finalizing the attacks. I mean, I think what he's talking about is right now, for the American people watching, it's dark over there. That's typically when the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that might continue for another few hours. And tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program. And I really do believe the beginning of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
This could be something very, very big for the beginning of peace in the Middle East, and God willing, he's right. God willing, he's right. Stability in that region. Remember how the president has talked about this? He said in the past, including during his first term, that he's made a lot of deals in his life. He's made a lot of big deals in his life, including, of course, now as his time as president of the United States. But he said that the biggest deal of all would be to try and bring peace to the Middle East, to solve that. And in term 1, he's got the Abraham Accords. He's like, forget these multilateral agreements where we get all these countries on board and they all agree to one thing and they're all doing it together. That's impossible. That's herding cats. We're not going to do that. Let's take it one by one. We'll establish the Abraham Accords. We'll have Arab nations establish normalized relations with Israel, and we'll go one by one by one, and we'll try and meet them in the middle and figure out how it is that we can come to a deal. And so they've been plugging away at that. They've cooled a lot down, a lot of the anti-Israel animosity among many of the Arab nations in the region. So the president was successful there. But with Iran, I mean, this is it, baby. I mean, this is the big terror sponsor in the region, killed a lot of Israelis, a lot of Americans, and are threatening to kill a lot more. And the president says, we got to settle these boys down. We got to stop them. So 1, take out the nuclear program. 2, let's get to this program where they stop shooting at each other. So a ceasefire. The end of the 12-day war, which is funny. Don't you love that the president named the war? That doesn't usually happen. Usually that comes from somewhere else. It isn't, not that usually the president of the United States. The 12-day war, he names this thing. And one of the reasons why that's interesting is because the Israelis, previously were locked in the 6-day war, which was in 1967. Israel fought Egypt, Syria, and Jordan in the 6-day war. By the way, Israel winning in that. And now you've got the 12-day war that the president has just announced. So that's the connective tissue between those two events. So this morning, you start to get these reports that the ceasefire is not holding. that there were missiles fired by the Iranians at Israel in violation of the ceasefire, and Israel has been absolutely slamming Iran in the intervening time, even before the ceasefire was announced. And the president, let's be honest, he's ticked off about this. He was ticked off about this. So as he was headed overseas this morning for a big international summit, he stops to talk to the press in front of Marine One, and cut 7, here's what the president had to say about these two countries.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
I don't know if you could be more plain spoken than that. We have two countries that have been fighting for so long and so hard, they don't know what the fuck they're doing, says the President of the United States. Yeah, well, that's quite the message, isn't it? Now, let's get to what happened next. Message received, because after that came out, the Prime Minister of Israel's office, this is Benjamin Netanyahu's office, released the following statement about the sequence of events. They wrote, the ceasefire was set for 7 o'clock this morning. At 3 o'clock, earlier in the morning, Israel forcefully attacked in the heart of Tehran, struck regime targets, and eliminated hundreds of Basij and Iranian security forces personnel. That's what Israel is saying. This is what President Trump, I believe, is referring to when he said this huge missile barrage that Israel sent in just ahead of the ceasefire. The president's like, why are you doing that? Why? Look, we're headed for a ceasefire. Just knock it off. No more missiles. This is the president's perspective. Shortly before the ceasefire was due to take effect, Iran launched a barrage of missiles, one of which took the lives of 4 of our citizens in Beersheba. The ceasefire took effect at 7 a.m. At 7:06 a.m., Iran launched 1 missile at Israeli territory and 2 additional missiles at 10:25 a.m. These missiles were either intercepted or fell in open areas, and it caused neither casualties nor damage. In response to Iran's violations, the Air Force destroyed a radar installation near Tehran. Pursuant to the conversation between President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel has refrained now from any additional attacks. In the conversation, President Trump expressed his great appreciation for Israel, which achieved all his objectives of the war, as well as his confidence in the stability of the ceasefire. So Israel got the message. Right away got the message and says, okay, all right, we're backing off. We're not doing this. We're not doing this anymore. We heard you, President Trump, but we're going to stop things now. We're going to cool it down. Now, that comes out, and now we get yet another statement from the President of the United States on this subject. This is right after the Israeli statement, and here's what the President is now saying this morning. I know there's a lot here, but boy, as this ceasefire gets started, yes, it's chaotic, but the President is doing everything he can to make sure it holds. Here's what he said just within the last few hours here, but again, after Israel made this statement. Israel is not going to attack Iran, President Trump says. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. What is a plane wave? Is a plane wave, I guess you rock the wings or something as you're headed on the way out. They're doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. President of the United States. So that's amazing. Ahoy 13 says, Trump said they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Play that clip. I did play that clip, Ahoy 13. You just back up the show a little bit. You'll hear it as the president said that. I think he was able to shake a couple more apples out of the tree this morning as he took care of this. Lastly, the chat has been calling my attention to the fact that he is still posting on Truth Social as we speak. In fact, as I'm doing this, it is now 13 minutes ago. Here's the president of the United States now moving on in his posts to what should happen next. He goes, now that we've made peace abroad, we must finish the job here at home. All right, this is the key. By passing the great, big, beautiful bill and getting the bill to my desk as soon as possible. It will be a historic present for the great people of the United States of America as we begin the celebration of our country's 250th birthday. We are finally entering our golden age, which will bring unprecedented safety, security, and prosperity to all of our citizens. To my friends in the Senate, lock yourself in a room if you must. Don't go home. Get the deal done this week. Work with the House so they can pick it up and pass it immediately. Nobody goes on vacation until it's done. Nobody. Everyone, most importantly, the American people, will be much better off thanks to our work together. Make America great again. So the president, just in the last few minutes, saying, look, I took care of the easy stuff. I made peace between Iran and Israel. Now's the hard part, getting Congress to pass the damn big, beautiful bill. Get in there, Senate. Do the work. I'm going to tell you in a moment. I'm going to thank the president for the transition here because I want to tell you in a moment the chaos that's going on in the Senate. This has been flying like a stealth bomber out of the sight of the radar, but I am here to tell you right now that something really meaningful is going on in the Senate. It's driving me more than a little bit crazy, and we're going to get into the details here in a moment. KT McFarland is joining us here in just a few minutes. We're going to chat with her about what the president's able to achieve here in the Middle East and so much more. So much more. Our show is sponsored by a bunch of great sponsors, to include Brickhouse Nutrition. Have you heard of Caralluma by any chance? It's an edible cactus. Edible cactus. It grows in India. It's believed to be a natural appetite suppressant. Caralluma is just one of the natural ingredients that doctors have added to a remarkable weight loss supplement called Lean from Brickhouse Nutrition. If you have a bold summer weight loss goal, but injections are not for you, here's what the doctors who formulated Lean said. They said that this supplement is as close as we've ever come to the benefits of those popular injections. Like injections, Brickhouse Nutrition's Lean was created to help maintain healthy blood sugar and help control appetite and cravings. But the rare ingredients in Lean are also designed to help burn fat by converting that fat into energy. And the best part, no needles, just real results. Their doctors created a healthier way to lose weight by capturing the power of natural ingredients like Caralluma. It's just smart. Let's get you started with 20% off. Just use the code VINCE20, VINCE20 at takelean.com. That's code VINCE20 at takelean.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and it's not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. Our thanks to Brickhouse Nutrition and Lean. They're awesome. Okay, so let me talk about this big, beautiful bill, the state of play here, because we've got something really stupid going on in the United States Senate. Right now, the bill is in the custody of a woman by the name of Elizabeth McDonough. Elizabeth McDonough. She is the Senate parliamentarian. She's been in that role now for many years. She was appointed to that role by Senator Harry Reid when he was running the United States Senate. In other words, a Democrat handpicked parliamentarian is getting to decide what features of the big, beautiful bill are even allowed to stay within it. Now, the reason nominally for this, the reason that she's got this power, is because the mechanism that they're using to pass this legislation is reconciliation. And in reconciliation, you're supposed to only be dealing with mandatory expenditures. That's supposed to be about spending specifically, and it's supposed to be a limited exception to the otherwise normal rules of the United States Senate. And to establish whether or not each of the provisions, quote, qualifies for the legislation, they run it through what they call the Byrd bath, not B-I-R-D, instead B-Y-R-D. That's Robert Byrd, the former KKK guy, the late KKK guy, one of the luminaries of the Democrats in the United States Senate, a guy who all of the Democrats, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, adored. They went to his funeral. They did his eulogies. It's called the Byrd bath. It's named after the KKK guy. And so the KKK guy gets to dictate what stays in this legislation and what doesn't. And this woman, Elizabeth McDonough, was handpicked by Harry Reid to call the shots. Are you following all of this? Does this make sense to you? I think the details make sense to you, but the idea that she would be in charge, that doesn't make sense to me. What in the world is going on? And now, granted, she's been in there long enough that she's made all sorts of absurd decisions about what qualifies under reconciliation, including the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation and everything to do with this horrific Green New Deal style spending, which she allowed to go through under reconciliation. So now what she is doing is she's purging all sorts of provisions from the legislation. And this is stuff that the Republicans in the House passed. These are things that the president wanted. Here, Axios has some of the reporting on this. Here's what's out. Here's the stuff that she's yanked out of all of this. One, a provision that would create a framework for the sale of federal lands. It had already been getting pushback from some GOP senators and from hunting groups. This is the Mike Lee provision. Mike Lee was trying to make it so that some federal land could be sold off. He also was trying to make it so that it didn't take away valuable hunting land, valuable wilderness. It had nothing to do with that, he said. I'll spare you all the nitty-gritty details of that particular debate. But she's saying, nope, we can't include that. I'm removing it because I get to make the decision, this Democrat parliamentarian lady. Additionally, there's a provision to pass food aid costs onto states by forcing them to share the expenses of the food stamp program. Yes, this is a cost savings exercise. The federal government is saying, look, we're not going to take the entire burden of paying for food stamps. If you want food stamps in your state, you've got to share the burden. So you've got to pay more for this, they said. And this is meant to save federal taxpayers money. And she's saying, nope, can't be in there. What? Who are you to say this? Additionally, she's removed proposed restrictions on the ability of federal courts to issue nationwide injunctions and temporary restraining orders. The big, beautiful bill is trying to stop federal district judges from these insane nationwide injunctions, which are already an abuse of power. She's saying, nope, that can't be in here. There's a GOP proposal to hollow out funding for Elizabeth Warren's ridiculous Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and there's a plan to slash pay for staff at the Federal Reserve. She's yanked it out. She's also gotten rid of an EPA rule limiting air pollution emissions of passenger vehicles. She's meddling with green energy kinds of stuff. She's meddling with a provision that allowed project developers to bypass judicial environmental reviews if they pay a fee. She removed a modified version of the RAINS Act, which makes it so that Congress actually has to do its job instead of allowing regulatory agencies to just make up laws on their own. This was a big priority for Mike Lee, as they point out. And then finally here, she also removed language that would have state and local officials be able to help immigration enforcement. So she's making it easier to protect amnesty in the United States. What the hell? So again, Democrats don't have the majority in the Senate, but they do have an unelected parliamentary bureaucrat sitting around and just yanking out things that she doesn't want. So the question to this, of course, is what do we do about it? What can be done? John Thune, the head of the Senate, can override her. But Vince, wouldn't that break some sort of precedent? Wouldn't that open up the door to some terrible, horrible future? Well, that door was already opened. Harry Reid, the guy who hired her, used her. She said at one point, sorry, you can't just force judges through. You can't do that. So she got in his way. And he said, okay, fine. I'm going to override you. Harry Reid overrode this woman, Elizabeth McDonough, in order to make it that all of his federal judicial picks would get through with a simple majority vote in the United States Senate. That had never been done before. Harry Reid forced it through. It was called the nuclear option. He went nuclear. So eventually, when Republicans wanted to get a Supreme Court justice seated, they used the same rule that Harry created. And they said, that's fine. We'll do it for a Supreme Court justice too. And they did. And they did. And that brings us to today. So Democrats not only chose the parliamentarian, they already blew past her. And so John Thune can do that. John Thune can do that. And here's what's annoying me this morning about Thune. Thune has already taken this off the table. Go back 3 weeks now. June 2nd, Politico report, Senate Majority Leader John Thune signaled Monday Republicans won't move to overrule the chamber's parliamentarian during an upcoming debate on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. We're not going there, Thune said when asked by reporters about overruling parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, who will play a special role in vetting the bill. This is the least Trumpy thing I've ever heard. Trump starts from a maximalist position. You better not get in my way or else I'm firing you. John Thune could do that. He could fire her. He could find a new Senate parliamentarian or else I'm firing you. So don't get in our way. How about that? That's where President Trump would start. John Thune starts with, oh, don't worry, I won't get in your way. You hadn't even heard from her yet. She hadn't made a single decision yet. Let her speak first and then judge whether or not you're going to override her. Why would you take the weapon off the table 3 weeks ago? That's insane. It's ballless. And that's what John Thune did. Look, these guys have to get this big, beautiful bill through. The president's urging them to do that today. And God willing, they do. And they should include every possible provision that's good for America and, of course, not have anything that sucks for us, of course. But this is an important piece of legislation for both the economy and for getting control of our borders. Do it now. And stop making excuses and stop taking your weapons off the table. That's insanity. That's insanity. It's gutless to do that. Fight. Fight, fight, fight. That's all we're asking for. I know, and for Washington, that's a lot. All right, in a moment, our guest coming up, KT McFarland. Looking forward to talking with her. We've got great sponsors of this program, including Bone Charge. Bone Charge infrared sauna blanket and red light face mask are wonderful products. I love the infrared sauna blanket. I use it because I've got a sauna at home. I wrap myself up in this thing. It's an infrared blanket, and that heat works. It's magic. It helps me with muscle recovery, detoxification. I can relax. I can rejuvenate. It's wonderful. It is wonderful. My wife loves the red light face mask. She wears this thing every single night, and it helps her with her skin's texture. You know, this thing reduces inflammation. These things have created fantastic results for us. And it's like having a mini spa treatment right at home, that red light face mask. It's cool. So if you're thinking about trying either of these products out, you're in luck. Head to Bone Charge, that's BONCharge.com. Use the code Vince at checkout to get 15% off. Both of these products have made such a huge impact on our wellness routines, and I'm sure you're going to love them too. Use the code Vince at bonecharge.com to save 15%. That's bonecharge.com, promo code Vince. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Thank you again to Bone Charge. And thank you also to Quince. Vince likes Quince. I do like Quince. I'm not big on trends or anything, but you know, I just like wearing clothing, getting clothing that feels good and lasts. And that's why I keep going back to Quince. They've got their lightweight layers and high-quality staples that I really like them. I'm constantly reaching for the Quince shirts and the Quince clothing. Quince has all the things you actually want to wear this summer, like organic cotton silk polos, European linen beach shorts, comfortable pants that work for everything from backyard hangouts to nice dinners. And the best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out any of the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury pieces without any of the markups. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. And it was a big deal in my family when we got this relationship with Quince going, and Quince is sponsoring the show. And I told my wife about it. She goes, Quince? She lit up instantly because she knows all about it. She knows all the fashion stuff. She knows everything about fashion. Ask that girl anything, she knows it. Stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/Vince for free shipping on your ordering 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/VINCE, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Vince. Thank you, Quince. Good to have you with us. Okay. Let us see here. Actually, let's talk Iran and Israel and ceasefires and peace deals and the president of the United States. Let's do it next with a woman who worked for him. She was the Deputy National Security Advisor for President Trump. KT McFarland joins us right now. KT, it is so nice to see you. Thank you for doing this.
Well, it's exciting times. Thank you for having me.
It's, we started with a bit of a shaky ceasefire this morning, a little bit. But the
Yeah.
president got out. He had some tough talk heading on to Marine One about these two countries. He says they got to knock it off. And sure enough, wasn't too long. A couple minutes later, all of a sudden, Israel says, "Okay,
Yeah.
we heard the message loud and clear. We're going to stop." What do you make of this? What the president's achieved here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, shaky ceasefire. It's President Trump is totally in charge of everything now. And if the kind of response that President Trump gave as he was on his way to the NATO summit was pretty clear. Okay, guys, knock it off, and in very firm language. So if you're Bibi Netanyahu, you knock it off. And if you're one of the Iranian leaders trying to figure out what's your position going forward, you better knock it off too.
For sure. Yesterday, Iran had this missile barrage that they fired at one of our bases, but we now know with the benefit of hindsight that this was all a theatrical effort. They notified the United States well in advance. People were evacuated. We
Mhm.
intercepted all the missiles, and even the president said they just needed to get it out of their system. He posted to Truth Social yesterday. I've never heard a president talk like this. What did you make of that? What does that foretell?
Yeah, Iran had a couple of choices. So number one, they could have gone to try to kill Americans wherever. We have a number of bases in the region, and they could have tried for maximum mass casualty. They didn't do that. Secondly, they could have either unleashed sleeper cells in the U.S. We don't think they've done that, or they could have gone after Israel. And as you saw, they did launch a missile barrage that President Trump has told them to knock it off. Or they could do this symbolic thing against
Right.
American forces. And it seems that they picked the most minimal response they could. Not only have the United States taken preparatory action by reinforcing our assets in the region, but we had gotten out a lot of the civilian and the dependents in those bases and then that region. So then, in addition to help us, Iran says, "Oh, by the way, make sure you don't have anybody here at 12 noon tomorrow because we might have something going on." And so,
Yes.
really, it was a symbolic gesture. So Iran could say, "Okay, look, we retaliated," but there was no chance that they were going to get President Trump mad at him again.
But what is the can you help me understand the psychology of that? Because it is maybe it's just unique because President Trump has revealed so much about it, but
Mhm.
for Iran to conduct a theatrical missile attack that really wasn't designed to hurt anyone, but it was that was designed to do what? Impress the
For their
Iranian
own
people
politics, for
that
their own
they have
domestic politics.
machismo or something?
Yeah, it's their own domestic politics. It's for their own,
Okay.
hey, look, we're the tough guys. Remember, for 72 hours ago, they were saying, oh, no, we're never going to have negotiations with the United States. We're in charge, blah, blah. And now, oh my gosh, not only is the Ayatollah in hiding and figures he's going to be a martyr, he's already designated 3 successors. So we probably don't ever see him again. And the Iranian leadership, the senior
Right.
military leadership, a number of whom have only had their jobs for about 4 days because their predecessors were killed by the Israelis. You've got a very different Iran right now, a very humbled Iran. And I think that's what's so interesting about President Trump. Any other leader might just rub their nose in it. They might just brag to Iran, hey, we've got you right where we want you. We've decimated you. But President Trump is
Right.
saying, look, if they want to call, they know my number. Happy to have negotiations. So I think he's given Iran so many off ramps. At the beginning of the negotiations, it didn't turn out to be said
Yes.
60 days. They didn't do it. Then Israel attacked on day 61. Then President Trump says, okay, how about another 2 weeks? And the Iranian leadership came out and said, no chance, don't bother, we're never coming. So we have the attack. And now he said, okay, guys, you got my phone number. If you want to have a talk, let's have a talk.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when President Trump has talked about Israel in the past, and when he's talked about Iran in the past, and either other countries in the region, he's always said, look, you choose your own leaders. You choose your own government. We're not going to come in with the Marines, regime change, nation build according to American design. You govern yourselves. So when he's sort of talked about regime change, it's never been American-led regime change. It's always been, hey, Iranian people, if you
Right.
want to make Iran great again and your leaders aren't getting you there, then maybe you might consider new leaders.
Yes. Can you dwell on this for a moment? And one of the reasons I like you so much is because you do occupy this space where you always you recognize like the immense value of a strong American military, but you share the president's concern about entangling us in needless wars. Can you talk about how he navigated all of this? Because he did have those 2 campaign promises, very clear ones on national security. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, and we can't be
Right.
sucked into an endless war that hurts Americans. Just give us your perspective on how the president's operating on that.
I think Vince, I think he's threaded that needle so beautifully. along with the help of Israel, or the lead from Israel. Because what has Israel done in the last several months? Well, Iran used to have something called the Ring of Fire. So they had Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. They had, in Syria, they had an air defense system. All of that was meant to protect Iran from attack, and it was meant to prevent Israel from getting out of the Ring of Fire and attacking Iran. Israel has systematically gotten rid of all of that. You know, there's no Hezbollah. Remember the pagers in the pockets? Those guys are gone. Hamas, they're gone. The Houthis, we took care of them. In fact, to the point where even the head of the Houthis saying, we believe in a Yemen first foreign policy. We're not going to do Iran's bidding. And there are no Syrian air defense systems left in Syria. And Iran had air defense systems, but Israel taken care of most of those, not all, but most of those, either the air defense, the batteries that would launch the missiles, or the missile depots themselves. So if you look at from the perspective of Iran, they're defenseless. They have no Ring of Fire. They have nobody defending them. They also don't own their own skies. So Americans, Israelis, anybody can attack with impunity, whether it's with drones or aircraft or with missiles. Iran has no ability to shoot any of that out of the air. So they have no defensive capability. They have very limited offensive capability. And as a result, Iran is isolated. Now, because they're losing, what has happened is China and Russia, they're two great allies, they're hands off. They're not touching this. And so Iran's only choice to retaliate is, I guess they could close the Strait of Hormuz. They wouldn't do it long. We would open it. But they would hurt themselves more than anything, because that's where all their oil goes. And that would really cut off their revenue stream. So they're right in the most vulnerable position.
This would be like the theory that Russia blew up its own pipeline, that they blew up the Nord Stream. Like Iran doesn't want to cut off its ability for energy exports, so the likeliness of them shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, it's a bit of a question mark, because they need the money. They need the income flowing.
Yeah, they do. And remember, the Strait of Hormuz and Iranian oil, I think 95% of Iranian oil goes to China. So if they want to have a relationship with China, they're not going to stop supplying China with oil. So Iran is in a very vulnerable position. But even so, President Trump has said, look, I had a mission, and the mission was to stop Iran's nuclear program. The mission was not regime change, George W. Bush style or Barack Obama style with Libya. You govern yourselves. And if you think of a regime change at all, really what President Trump was hearkening back to is Ronald Reagan regime change. You people in this country, whether it's in Poland or Hungary or the Czech Republic, even Russia, if you don't like your leaders, get new leaders. And that was the collapse of the Soviet Union and the fall of the Iron Curtain.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to watch the president's communication style in the midst of all of this, because, and like he kind of did with Kim Jong-un, from kind of the little rocket man exchanges to being very cordial with him. He's similarly with Iran. He's been very aggressive when necessary, but then in the last 24 hours, he's posting things like "Make Iran Great Again" and "God Bless Iran," and it's got to be one of the most bizarre things for world leaders to engage with, because normally, as you point out, a lot of these conversations and temperament shifts happen so much more gradually. With President Trump, he goes from all of that alpha aggression straight to, "I want your country to be great, and I'm here to support you."
It is. I mean, this is one of the genius of President Trump, is that he's able to thread that needle, and he's telling Iran, we'll be great again. We'll help you be great again. So he's managed to do it. Promises made, promises kept. No regime changed unless they want to do it. No Iran nuclear weapon. We helped you with that one. And as far as the boots on the ground, he's made it really clear, no American boots on the ground. The thing I take from all of this, though, is the bigger picture. A couple bigger picture things have happened. One, Donald Trump is king of the world. Right? I mean, 5 months ago, a year ago, China was running around the world saying, "Oh, America, look at Joe Biden. He's a frail old guy." That's really an emblem and a symbol of what America's become. They're past their prime. They're done. They're a spent force. They're in irrevocable decline. China's the wave of the future. But if you see what the United States just pulled off, no other country could pull it off. It was complicated. It was precise. And it was by complete surprise. Yes. I mean, every other leader in the world has got to have his jaw dropped to say, whoa, look what America can do when America wants to do it. And I think the other thing is that President Trump has reestablished American leadership, because, President Trump, he says something, then he does it. He doesn't prevaricate. He doesn't give anybody excuses. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, Iran, we're so sick of your silly games. We know you were going for a nuclear weapon. We're not going to put
Yeah.
up with this anymore. So all of a sudden, the United States, which everybody knew was powerful, but somehow reluctant to use our power, we now have a president who is thrilled to use our power.
Yes. Okay, let me just one other piece from the weekend that I've been thinking a lot about. Obviously, we'll see again how fragile the ceasefire is and whether or not it holds. But coming out of the weekend, it does seem, and the president keeps reiterating, including this morning, that he's severely diminished, if not outright destroyed, Iran's nuclear enrichment capabilities. We've been told for decades now that Iran was weeks away, days away from nuclear breakout. It does seem that one of the big victories this week that shouldn't go unnoticed is that timeline has just been changed dramatically, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think President Trump responded because he got different information that they were, Iran has always been a couple of turns of the screw away from having nuclear weapons because we know they have missiles that can carry nuclear weapons. We know they have enriched uranium in large amounts. We weren't quite sure that they had the ability to pull it all together, like the blueprint for how do you take the uranium, make it into an efficient bomb and put it on the top of a missile. But between the Israelis and between us, we probably had intelligence that was about to change. So we always knew that they were a couple of turns of the screw away. And Iran's excuse had always been, well, we're not developing nuclear weapons. See, we haven't turned the screw yet. And the international community has always said, well, they haven't the intention of turning the screw. My doctorate at MIT was in nuclear weapons planning. And you don't look at a country's intentions, you look at their capabilities. And that's what President Trump did. He said, if there are a couple turns of the screw away, whether it's this week, next week, 6 months from now, that's too soon. Okay, so we're going to take it out now.
Yeah. Yes. Finally, how cautious do you think the president is about the deep state still in the United States? Because the president made a decision on the basis of what he thought was credible intelligence here about the situation in Iran, as you point out, that he suspected that they were a couple screw turns away from a nuclear weapon. How difficult is it for a president who's aware of the deception and power of the deep state to navigate that now that he's back in office?
The great thing about watching President Trump from his first term and his second term, so I was in the first term and the transition in the White House during the early months of the Trump administration, and we didn't really recognize how bad the deep state was. I mean, President Trump came to it as a businessman, not a politician. And he, as a businessman, he thinks, oh, I bought a company. I'm the head of the company. The company employees are going to do what I tell them to do, or they're going to quit, or I'm going to fire them. And I don't think he realized that the company that he became in charge of, the deep state, didn't want to do anything he wanted to do. And they knew how to sabotage him at every single step of the way. And that's what they did. So he's always trying to kind of playing catch up. It's extraordinary what he accomplished, even with that albatross around his neck of the deep state. But coming into his second term, he's gotten rid of a lot of that deep state. He's got the people who are the career people that he thought were working against him at whatever agency, they're gone. He's got Elon Musk, who tried to buy out a lot of the deep state. I think once the big, beautiful bill passes, President Trump will turn his attention to what's called codifying DOGE. So in other words, make it into law that you're going to eliminate this agency, cut this budget in half, et cetera. So he's well on his way to taming the bureaucracy, not to his will, not in the sense of a dictator, but so that the bureaucracy is no longer the fourth arm of government.
It's in a much better position than it was in the past, in other words. All right, KT McFarland, former Deputy National Security Advisor for the President. Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you and your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you.
Very good to talk to you. That's KT McFarland. She's great, a very smart woman. And, it's fascinating to watch, and I'll do credit to the president, who really has brought a major sea change to the presidency. I mean, just imagine. Can you just, again, engage yourself in the thought experiment for a moment? What does all of this look like if Kamala is president of the United States? What kind of chaos is the world in? How much is she giving away? She's going to give away the whole farm. It's just crazy. And the president, as we've been saying these past few days, he's your KT sick in a unique position to thread the needle here. So congratulations to him for doing that. And for the rest of us, love that. Okay, let me see. I've got a couple of other big things that I want to make sure to hit with you today. One the Supreme Court yesterday ruled that, yes, the president can boot illegal aliens out of the country and send them to third countries. So even if we can't send them back to their home countries, we can send them to holding stations, just get them out. So a massive 6-3 ruling from the United States Supreme Court yesterday, as the Daily Caller covered it. The Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to more quickly deport illegals to countries not specified in their removal orders. A majority temporarily blocked a lower court order that had required DHS to give these illegals notice and then allow them to raise concerns about potential threats of torture before being deported to a third country. And so the majority just said, yeah, no, this can happen. The only people who offered an actual opinion on this subject was the out-of-control lunatic minority of the decision, and that includes Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Elena Kagan. No surprise. And they freaked out about all of this, and they said people are going to suffer violence in far-flung locales and all of this. They show way more concern for illegal foreign nationals than they do the American citizens who are being hurt in all of this. So the United States Supreme Court had a big decision yesterday, which I enthusiastically approve. I am very happy about this decision and grateful that the court is on our side. That's key. Now, the court's on our side, but not every court is on our side. So yesterday, immediately after this, a United States district judge by the name of Bryant Murphy, the original judge who caused all this chaos in Boston, he instantly defied the Supremes. He instantly defied them. In an order Monday, ABC reports, Murphy said that 8 men in Djibouti remain protected from immediate removal despite the Supreme Court's ruling. It's also because we were trying to send them to South Sudan. They're in a holding pattern in Djibouti right now on a military base, and we're trying to get them to South Sudan. We're sending them there. And this judge said, no, you can't do it. So yesterday, right away, in defiance of the United States Supreme Court, said, no dice. We've still got to keep these guys from getting to the destination the Trump administration wants to send them. Okay, so what do we do about this? Well, one, Stephen Miller is already suggesting, not just suggesting, outright declaring, says the following. If I can go to social media here he is responding. He said, a Boston judge has halted the deportation of illegal aliens convicted of child rape and murder. Again, to be clear, what they're convicted of is child rape and murder. These are child rapists and murderers that this judge is protecting. He said, finally, the Supreme Court stepped in and halted the judge's lawless edict. Late last night, the Boston judge claimed authority to overrule the Supreme Court and defied the court's order. Now, that brings us to Stephen Miller last night on Fox reacting to this breaking news. Here he is, cut 4. He said today, that would be Tuesday, you can expect some fireworks on this subject. Take a look at Stephen.
This is an incredible victory, the Supreme Court win. It allows President Trump, as the law has long said, but the courts have blocked, it allows President Trump to send illegal aliens convicted of rape, murder, homicide, assault, battery, crimes against children to any country around the world that is willing to accept them. So whether that be South Sudan, or whether it be Somalia, or whether it be Ethiopia, any country in the world that is willing to accept these monsters, we can get them out of our country and be free of them forever. The only thing I have to share tonight, Sean, in a little bit of breaking news, is that the district court judge in Boston has said he's going to defy the Supreme Court's ruling. So expect fireworks tomorrow when we hold this judge accountable for refusing to obey the Supreme Court.
We're going to hold this judge accountable. Boy, I can't wait to see what that looks like. I can't wait to see. If you're listening to the podcast and it's already developed by the time you're hearing this, then well, you'll probably find out my reaction tomorrow on tomorrow's show. But it is crazy that this is even happening. What is that? When a district judge says, up yours to the United States Supreme Court at the top of the food chain in his branch of government, doesn't that sound to you like a constitutional crisis? The judge is not following the order of the Supreme Court, saying, yeah, I'm going to do whatever I want anyway. No, that's not how this works. That's not, as they say, how any of this works. That guy needs to be, at the very least, impeached from his job. And the Congress can do that. They can impeach him. Let's start impeachment proceedings against this judge. It's enough. Another federal district judge, drunk on power. And who put you in charge? You know, how's the dog catcher the president of the United States now? How did that happen? How are you more powerful than the United States Supreme Court? How exactly did that happen? So I'm a big fan of accountability culture, and I'd like to see that come for this judge in Boston, who's just absolutely crazy. So yeah, fireworks. That's the word of the day. Fireworks from Stephen Miller. And I kind of have this sneaking suspicion that when Stephen Miller says fireworks, he means it. That there's going to be something meaningful happening here. So that's a massive story related to our efforts to deport this guy. I should tell you that, in case you're wondering who could possibly like this judge, well, back in April of last year, Elizabeth Warren was the person who introduced this Biden nominee in the United States Senate. Take a look at Cut 5. Elizabeth Warren, enthusiastic about how this guy follows the Constitution.
Mr. Murphy's professional life has been defined by his dedication to the Constitution.
Yeah, he's just totally dedicated to the Constitution, except for, Article 1 or Article 2 or Article 3. Other than that, he's all in. He's like for the Constitution. Well, other than probably the Bill of Rights. What am I missing? He's against the Constitution, actually. Elizabeth Warren is a cartoon character. She's a ridiculous person. So yet another lie. A woman who lies about being Native American, also lies about the fealty to the Constitution that this Joe Biden nominee, who's completely out of control, actually has. So there you go. That's the typical thing. Lastly today, if any of you are in New York, the New York City Democrat mayoral primary is happening today. And unfortunately, this is so freaking crazy. It's ridiculous. The leading candidate right now is a foreigner socialist by the name of Zohran Mamdani, who's a complete psychopath, actually, in every possible sense. So, of course, he's the leader right now in the race. How did we even get here? He's for socializing grocery stores for a $30 minimum wage. He's for taxpayer-funded gender reassignment surgeries. He's for decriminalizing all crime. He's for, quote, globalizing the intifada. He's a psycho. And so he's the whole thing. He's the whole package all wrapped into one. He's every incoherent leftist philosophy presented as a mayoral candidate. There was a survey earlier this week that the New York Post published that found that he's right now the leading candidate in the race. Now, again, this is a Democrat primary. You know what your alternative is? Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, the corrupt dude who got a bunch of elderly patients murdered by putting them into nursing homes with COVID. These are your options, New York. These are your options. So it comes down to the degenerate, socialist, incoherent radical versus the corrupt, homicidal former governor of New York. Why am I looking at this and going, maybe the corrupt, homicidal former governor of New York would be a better candidate? It's unreal. It's unreal. I don't know. Yeah, it might be good news for the Republicans, but I'm telling you right now, it's bad news for New York. It's so bad the Chicago Tribune just wrote an op-ed warning New York that if they end up with the socialist guy, they're going to have the same experience that they're having in Chicago with Brandon Johnson. You want to drive your city even deeper into the toilet? Hire a guy like Brandon Johnson or this guy Zohran Mamdani. So, if you can be involved at all in the election today, vote against Zordon or whatever this guy's name is, and keep him from power, please, by all means. Hey, thank you as always for joining us. This show airs every day at 10 a.m. Eastern, live, rumble.com/Vince. God bless you for being a part of it, the best damn audience in media. We got a radio show every day, too. TheVinceShow.com. You can find your local radio listings, or if you want to watch us live, rumble.com/Vince. I'm back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, live on Rumble or wherever you get a podcast. Thanks for being with me today. Up next, Steven Crowder, live on Rumble.